Story 1. The Mirrors That Showed Tomorrow. Marcus Webb saw his own corpse in the side mirror at 2:47 a.m. on Interstate 40 outside Amarillo. Not a reflection. His actual body slumped over the steering wheel, blood streaking down the windshield from a head wound that hadn't happened yet. The image lasted 3 seconds before snapping back to the normal view of the empty highway behind him. Marcus jerked the wheel, nearly putting his Kenworth into the median. His heart hammered. He'd been driving for 19 years, never hallucinated, never. He checked the mirror again. Normal, dark highway, his own pale face in the driver's side window reflection. He exhaled slowly, forcing his grip to relax on the wheel. Fatigue. Had to be. Except he'd slept 6 hours at the Flying J in Albuquerque. Felt fine when he started this leg, and the image had been so clear, so detailed. His own face, eyes open but empty, a spiderweb crack in the windshield radiating from where his forehead had impacted. The CB crackled. "Eastbound Kenworth, you all right there? Saw you swerve." Marcus grabbed the handset. "Yeah, I'm good. Thought I saw something, thanks for checking." "Roger that. Stay safe out there." Marcus set the mic down and glanced at the passenger mirror. His breath caught. The mirror showed his truck, but the cab was engulfed in flames. Orange fire pouring from the windows, black smoke billowing. He could see himself inside, beating against the glass, mouth open in a scream he couldn't hear. Then the image reset. Normal mirror, normal night. He pulled onto the shoulder, hands shaking, set the air brakes. The truck hissed and settled. Marcus stared at both mirrors. Driver's side, normal. Passenger side, normal. He pulled out his phone. 2:51 a.m. 4 minutes since the first vision. He opened the browser, searched trucker hallucinations fatigue. Found the usual articles about microsleep, highway hypnosis, sleep deprivation psychosis. Nothing about mirrors showing death. He was about to pull back onto the highway when the center rearview mirror inside the cab caught his attention. It showed his trailer, but the doors were open. A figure stood in the opening. Tall, impossibly thin. Face obscured by shadow. The figure raised one elongated arm and pointed directly at Marcus. At his reflection. The gesture was deliberate, accusatory. Marcus spun around. The trailer doors were closed, sealed with the load locks he'd checked himself in Phoenix. He looked back at the mirror. Empty trailer. No figure. His pulse thundered in his ears. This wasn't fatigue. This was something else. He grabbed the CB. "This is eastbound Kenworth at mile marker 89 on I-40. Anyone else seeing weird shit in their mirrors tonight?" Static. Then, "Define weird, driver." "Reflections that aren't reflections. Things that haven't happened. Or things that aren't there." Long pause. Different voice. Older, gravelly. "Get off at the next exit. Find a truck stop. Don't look at your mirrors until you do." "What is this?" "The reflection highway. Happens sometimes on 40 between Amarillo and Oklahoma City. Mirrors start showing what they want, not what's real. Exit now." Marcus checked his GPS. Next exit, 12 miles. He released the air brakes and pulled back onto the highway, keeping his eyes locked on the road ahead. Not the mirrors. Don't look at the mirrors. But peripheral vision betrayed him. The driver's side mirror was moving, changing. He couldn't help it. He glanced. The mirror showed a rest area, his truck parked, the driver's door open. A trail of blood leading from the cab into the dark trees beyond the parking lot. No body, just blood and darkness. "Fuck this." Marcus pressed the accelerator. The big Cummins engine responded, pushing 75-80. The legal limit was 75 for trucks in Texas. He didn't care. 11 miles to the exit. The passenger mirror showed his truck jackknifed across both lanes, traffic piled behind it. Emergency lights, body bags, multiple body bags, 10 miles. The center mirror showed the inside of his cab, but he wasn't alone. The thin figure sat in the passenger seat, impossibly folded into the space, its head tilted at an angle that would have snapped a human neck. It stared at Marcus with eyes that reflected light like an animal's. Yellow and empty. 9 miles. Marcus kept his eyes forward. The road itself seemed wrong now. The lane markers were too bright, too white. They pulsed with a rhythm that matched his heartbeat. The darkness beyond the headlights felt dense, solid, like the light couldn't penetrate more than 50 feet before being absorbed by something hungry. The CB crackled. "Eastbound Kenworth, you still with us?" "Yeah, 8 miles to exit." "Good, don't stop, don't slow down. And whatever you do, don't trust what the mirrors show you after mile marker 85. That's when they start showing the choice." "What choice?" "The way you die. They'll show you every possible death on this highway, every way it could happen. And once you've seen them all, one of them locks in. Becomes real, becomes inevitable." Marcus's stomach dropped. "How do I stop it?" "You don't. You just get off the highway before it decides." 7 miles. The driver's mirror showed his truck upside down in a ditch, wheels still spinning. The passenger mirror showed it T-boned by a semi at an intersection. The center mirror showed the cab crushed beneath a fallen overpass. Each image lasted longer now. 3 seconds. 5. 7. They were becoming more detailed, more real. He could smell smoke from the fire that hadn't happened, could feel the phantom impact of crashes that existed only in reflection. 6 miles. A new image in the driver's mirror, his truck parked at a way station. The scale house door open, the interior too dark, too deep. Something moving in that darkness, reaching toward the truck with appendages that were too many and too long. Marcus could see himself walking toward the scale house. Compelled. Unable to stop. 5 miles. The speedometer read 85. The engine screamed. He'd blow past every way station and inspection point if he had to. Getting off this highway was all that mattered. 4 miles. All 3 mirrors showed the same image now. His truck stopped on the shoulder. Right here, right now. The thin figure standing beside the driver's door, waiting, patient. It gestured to the mirrors, a sweeping motion that encompassed all 3. Then it pointed at Marcus again. The meaning was clear. This is your choice. Stop or drive. Both end the same. 3 miles. Marcus's phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him grab it. "Hello?" His own voice answered. "Pull over, Marcus. It's easier if you just pull over." "Who is this?" "You know who. You saw me in the mirror. The first version, head wound, windshield. That's the gentle one. That's the quick one. The others are worse, so much worse. Pull over and I'll make it quick." Marcus threw the phone onto the passenger seat. It kept ringing. Different number. He answered again, couldn't help it. His voice again, but screaming this time. "Don't listen to it. Drive. Get to the exit. It lies. They all—" The call cut off. 2 miles. The mirrors were cycling faster now, showing dozens of deaths per second. Flashing like a strobe. Each image burned into his retinas, crashes, fires, the thin figure reaching through the windshield, his own hands around his throat, the truck sinking into a sinkhole that couldn't exist on a Texas highway, his body coming apart in ways that defied physics. 1 mile. The exit sign appeared. Rest area, 1 mile. Not the exit, a rest area. He'd misread the GPS in his panic. The actual exit was still 6 miles ahead. The rest area was right here, 1 mile away. The CBO, do not take the rest area. That's what it wants. That's where the choice becomes permanent. 6 more miles, driver. You can make it. But his truck was slowing. Marcus stared at his foot on the accelerator. It was pressed to the floor, but the truck was decelerating. 70, 65, 60. The engine RPMs dropped. The rest area sign grew closer. Rest area 1-2 mile. He couldn't control the truck anymore. Something else was. The steering wheel turned slightly to the right, toward the exit ramp, toward the rest area. Marcus grabbed the wheel with both hands, fighting it. The wheel fought back with impossible strength, 55 miles per hour. The exit ramp approaching. All 3 mirrors showed the same thing. The rest area parking lot, empty except for his truck. The thin figure standing in the center of the lot, waiting. Behind it, other figures emerged from the tree line. Dozens of them, hundreds, all thin, all wrong, all patient. Marcus made a decision. He yanked the wheel hard left, into the median. The truck lurched, tilted. The driver's side wheels left the ground. For a moment he was airborne, the cab tilting at 45 degrees. The mirrors showed him the rollover, the crash, the end. Then the wheels slammed back down. The truck bounced through the median, across the westbound lanes, empty, thank God, and into the opposite shoulder. The air brakes screamed. The trailer jackknifed. The whole rig spun 90 degrees before stopping, facing back west the way he'd come. Marcus sat in the cab, gasping. His mirrors showed normal reflections, the dark highway, his own face pale and terrified. No thin figure, no visions of death. The CB crackled. Eastbound, westbound now, I guess. Kenworth, you still alive? Marcus grabbed the mic. Yeah, I think so. You broke the pattern, forced a different choice. The mirrors can't predict what they can't see coming. Chaos breaks their lock. Marcus looked at his side mirrors. Normal. Showing the empty Texas highway. The stars overhead. Reality. What was that thing? Those things? No one knows, but they live in the reflections on this stretch. They show you deaths until you accept one, until you choose one, even if you don't know you're choosing. Then it happens exactly like the mirror showed. But you didn't choose. You created something new, something outside their predictions. Marcus started the engine. It turned over clean. No damage. Impossible, but he wasn't questioning it. He straightened the truck and started driving west, back toward Amarillo, away from the reflection highway. Where are you headed, driver? The CB voice asked. Anywhere but east on 40. I'll take 287 north, hook around. Add 200 miles to my route, don't care. Smart. The mirrors reset at the Oklahoma border, but you don't want to chance it. Marcus drove through the night, checking his mirrors obsessively. Normal reflections. Always normal. But at 4:13 a.m., 70 miles from where it started, he glanced at the center rearview mirror one last time. The thin figure sat in his passenger seat again. Not real. Just in the mirror. It raised one elongated finger to where its mouth would be. A gesture of silence, of secrets kept. Then it smiled, a too-wide splitting of its featureless face, and faded. Marcus Webb never drove I-40 through the Texas Panhandle again. He told other truckers about the reflection highway. Some believed him. Most didn't. But the ones who'd driven that stretch at night between Amarillo and the Oklahoma line, between 2 and 5 a.m. when the mirrors start showing wrong things, they believed. They always believed, and they never looked at their mirrors on that highway. Not if they could help it, because the reflections on that road don't show what is. They show what the thin figures want. And once you've seen enough versions of your death, one of them stops being a vision. One of them becomes a prophecy. Marcus still drives, still hauls freight across America, but he's memorized every alternate route around that stretch of I-40. He's added thousands of miles to his logs, avoiding it. His dispatcher thinks he's superstitious. His wife thinks he's traumatized. Only Marcus knows the truth. The thin figures are still waiting, still patient, still watching from the other side of every mirror on that highway. And if he ever drives through there again, they'll remember him. They'll remember the man who broke their pattern, and they'll show him things in the mirrors that are so much worse than death. Story 2. The Fog That Remembered. Danny Ortiz drove into the fog at 11:43 p.m. on Highway 101 north of Eureka, California. Standard coastal fog, thick as cotton, visibility down to 50 feet. He'd driven this route 100 times, knew every curve, every turnout, every mile marker. The fog was annoying but manageable. He slowed to 45, turned on his flashers, and settled in for the slow crawl to Crescent City. The first sign something was wrong came at 12:08 a.m. Danny passed a disabled vehicle on the shoulder, a blue Honda Civic with the hood up and hazards flashing. He considered stopping, but there was no one with the car. Probably called for a tow already. He continued on. At 12:14 a.m. he passed the same blue Honda Civic. Same spot on the shoulder, same position, exact same hazard flash pattern. Danny's hands tightened on the wheel. No, he'd driven 6 miles since the first sighting. GPS confirmed it. Couldn't be the same car. Just another blue Civic. Coincidence. At 12:20 a.m. he passed it again. Same car. Same exact position. Same mile marker. 167. He was looping. Somehow, impossibly, the highway was looping him back to the same point every 6 to 8 minutes. Danny grabbed the CB. This is northbound Freightliner on 101, mile marker 167. Anyone else stuck in this fog? Static. He tried again. Anyone on 101 tonight? More static. Not the usual CB chatter static. This was different. Denser. Like the fog had infiltrated the radio waves. He checked his phone. No signal. The screen showed the GPS still tracking, but the map wasn't loading. Just a gray void with a blue dot representing his truck, moving along a thin line that represented Highway 101. But the mile markers weren't changing anymore. Stuck at 167. Danny slowed to 30 miles per hour. The fog pressed against the windshield like something solid, like something alive. He could see swirls in it, patterns that shouldn't exist in normal fog, spirals, geometric shapes. And were those faces? No. Pareidolia. The human brain finding patterns in randomness. He focused on the white line marking the right edge of the lane. Follow the line. Don't think about the fog. Don't think about looping. At 12:31 a.m., he passed the blue Honda again. This time, someone stood beside it. A woman in a red jacket facing away from the road, staring into the fog. Danny hit his air horn. 3 short blasts. The woman didn't react, didn't turn, didn't move at all. He should stop, should check if she needed help. But everything in his gut screamed at him to keep driving. Something about her stillness, her complete lack of response to an air horn less than 30 feet away. Something was very wrong. He pressed on. The speedometer read 30, but it felt slower, like the truck was moving through something thicker than air. The engine RPMs were normal, transmission shifting smoothly, but the sensation of movement felt off, dampened, muffled. At 12:39 a.m., he passed the Honda again. The woman was still there, same position, but now she was closer to the road, 10 feet from the white line instead of 20. Still facing away, still motionless. Danny's breath came faster. The fog had infiltrated the cab now. He could see wisps of it curling around the dashboard, seeping through vents that shouldn't allow anything through. It smelled like memory. That was the only way to describe it. Like old photographs, like grandmother's attic, like childhood rooms long abandoned. At 12:47 a.m., the woman was 5 feet from the white line, closer with each loop. Danny could see details now through the fog. Her red jacket was wrong, too old, a style from the 80s or 90s. Her hair was wrong too, permed and teased in a way no one wore anymore, and her stillness was absolute, not breathing, not swaying, not alive. The CB crackled, not static this time. A voice. You're in the memory fog now, driver. It's too late to turn back. Danny grabbed the mic. Who is this? What's happening? The fog remembers everything that happened on this highway, every accident, every death, every person who died on this stretch of 101. It holds them, preserves them. And when conditions are right, coastal fog between midnight and 3 a.m., specific barometric pressure, the memories become real again, solid, tangible. How do I get out? You don't. The fog is showing you something, a loop, an accident that happened over and over in the same spot, mile marker 167. Once it finishes showing you, it'll decide if you're part of the memory or just a witness. Decide how? The radio went silent. At 12:56 a.m., the woman was at the white line, right at the road's edge, and now Danny could see her face in the side mirror as he passed. Her eyes were closed, her mouth was open, and her skin had the gray pallor of someone who'd been dead for years. At 1:04 a.m., she was in the road, standing in his lane, facing toward him this time, eyes still closed, mouth still open. Danny had two choices, swerve or hit her. He swerved. The truck drifted into the oncoming lane, empty, thank God. He corrected, kept driving. At 1:12 a.m., she was in the road again. Same spot, but this time her eyes were open. They glowed faintly in the headlights, not reflecting light, producing it, a soft amber glow that pulsed with a heartbeat rhythm. Danny didn't swerve this time. He couldn't explain why. Some instinct told him swerving was the wrong choice. He aimed straight for her. The truck passed through her like she wasn't there, like she was made of fog, which he realized she probably was. At 1:21 a.m., there were three figures in the road, the woman in red, a man in a business suit, a child holding a teddy bear, all with closed eyes, all perfectly still, all waiting. Danny drove through them. They dissolved into fog and reformed in his mirrors, watching the truck pass. At 1:29 a.m., there were dozens of them, filling both lanes, a crowd of fog people, all from different eras, 70s, 60s, 50s, further back, clothing that looked Victorian. All dead, all remembered by the fog, all preserved in this loop at mile marker 167. Danny kept driving. What else could he do? The truck pushed through them like a ship through water. They parted and reformed, silent, watching with dead eyes that glowed in the dark. At 1:38 a.m., the fog cleared, suddenly, completely. One moment Danny was surrounded by thick vapor and ghost people. The next, the air was crystal clear. Stars overhead, moon bright and full. The ocean visible to his left, waves crashing against rocks. Normal California coastline, normal night. The GPS refreshed, mile marker 189. 22 miles past where he'd been stuck. His phone chimed with a flood of delayed messages. The CB crackled with normal chatter. Everything was normal, except Danny's hands were shaking. His shirt was soaked with sweat. And when he looked in his side mirror, there was a handprint on the outside of the glass, small, child-sized, made of condensation that shouldn't be there on a clear, dry night. He pulled into the next rest area, sat in the cab with the engine running and all the lights on. Googled Highway 101 accidents mile marker 167. Found a news article from 1987. A multi-vehicle pileup in dense fog, 14 dead. The article included names: Mary Castellano, 32, Robert Hughes, 45, Sarah Hughes, 7. Others. Danny scrolled through the pictures. His blood went cold. Mary Castellano wore a red jacket in her driver's license photo. Robert Hughes's suit in his company headshot matched exactly. Sarah Hughes held a teddy bear in her school picture. The fog had shown him the dead, not metaphorically, actually them, preserved somehow in the place where they died, trapped in a loop that replayed their last moments forever. Danny didn't sleep that night, or the next. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw them. The fog people, dozens of them, hundreds maybe. All the deaths that Highway 101 remembered, all preserved, all waiting. He called in sick for the next 3 runs. told his dispatcher he had the flu. Finally went back out 2 weeks later. Different route. I-5 through Central California, avoiding the coast, avoiding 101, avoiding any possibility of fog. But at 2:17 a.m., driving through the Central Valley, fog rolled across the highway. Normal agricultural fog, Thule fog, the locals called it. Danny slowed down, turned on his flashers, told himself it was fine. Different highway, different fog, different region. Then he saw the figure at the roadside, wearing a red jacket, facing away. Danny's foot hit the brake pedal. The truck shuddered. The figure turned slowly, and even at this distance, even through the fog, Danny could see her glowing amber eyes. Could see her mouth open in a silent greeting. Or warning. The CB crackled. It's not just Highway 101, driver. Fog is fog. Memory is memory. And some deaths are strong enough that any fog can carry them. Any fog can remember. Danny sat frozen. The woman raised one hand, beckoned. Behind her, other shapes emerged from the fog. Dozens, hundreds. All the deaths from all the foggy highways, all preserved, all waiting for someone to witness them or join them. Danny put the truck in reverse, backed up 200 yards. Took the last exit he'd passed, drove surface streets through farm country until the fog cleared. Never stopped shaking. He quit long-haul trucking 3 months later. Told everyone it was his back. Told his wife he wanted to be home more. Told his kids he was getting too old for the road. All lies. The truth was simpler. Danny Ortiz couldn't risk the fog anymore. Couldn't risk being remembered by it. Couldn't risk becoming one of the shapes that stood at roadsides, waiting in loops that never ended, preserved forever in vapor and memory. Because the fog on Highway 101 doesn't just remember the dead, it collects them, keeps them, adds them to its gallery of preserved moments and preserved lives. And once the fog remembers you, once you become part of its collection, you're there forever, stuck at the mile marker where you died. Looping through your last moments eternally, visible only when the fog rolls in thick enough, when the conditions are right. When another driver passes through and sees you standing there, face away, waiting to turn around and show your glowing eyes. Danny knows this because on his last night driving 101 at mile marker 167 in the final loop before the fog cleared, he saw someone else in the crowd of fog people. Someone wearing a trucking company uniform, driving a freightliner. Someone who looked exactly like Danny Ortiz except gray-skinned and dead-eyed and preserved in that moment of recognition. A version of himself that had made a different choice. That had stopped for the woman in the red jacket. That had become part of the memory. Danny had escaped. That version of him hadn't. But now Danny knows. The fog holds all possibilities, all versions, all the ways things could have ended. And somewhere on Highway 101 at mile marker 167, there's a fog person who looks exactly like Danny Ortiz, who stands at the roadside when the fog rolls in, who waits for other drivers to pass through the memory fog, who serves as a warning that some memories are strong enough to become real, and some highways never forget. Story 3. The Load That Whispered. Carl Brennan loaded the cargo at 3:15 p.m. in Memphis. Standard shipping containers, manifest listed as industrial textile equipment. 18,000 pounds properly distributed, load locks secure. The shipper was a nondescript warehouse with a generic name, Delta Industrial Supply. The paperwork was clean. Payment was good. No reason to suspect anything unusual. The whispers started at 7:42 p.m. somewhere between Little Rock and Fort Smith on I-40. At first, Carl thought it was the CB, faint voices bleeding through from another channel. He adjusted the squelch, checked the channel. Nothing. Static. But the whispers continued, soft, indistinct, coming from behind him, from the trailer. Carl had been hauling freight for 23 years. He knew every sound a trailer could make, The tick of metal cooling, the shift of cargo settling, the rattle of chains. These weren't those sounds. These were voices, multiple voices, whispering in a language he almost recognized but couldn't quite understand. Like listening to a conversation in the next room through a wall, you could tell it was speech but not what was being said. He turned up the radio. Country music filled the cab, drowned out the whispers. Problem solved. Except at 8:18 p.m. the radio cut out, just stopped mid-song. The display showed it was still on, still tuned to the station, but no sound came through. And in the silence, the whispers were louder, clearer. Still unintelligible, but definitely language. Definitely intentional. And definitely coming from the sealed containers in his trailer. Carl pulled into a Love's truck stop at 8:35 p.m., parked under the bright security lights, grabbed his flashlight, and walked back to the trailer. The whispers stopped the moment he rounded the cab. Complete silence. He checked the load locks. Secure. Checked the container seals. Unbroken. Pressed his ear against the cold metal. Nothing. Silence. Just the ambient noise of the truck stop, other trucks idling, cars fueling, the distant hum of the highway. Carl walked back to the cab, sat in the driver's seat, waited. 5 minutes, 10. The whispers didn't resume. He was hearing things. Fatigue, stress. He'd only slept 4 hours last night, that was it. Nothing mysterious, nothing wrong, just exhaustion playing tricks. He pulled back onto I-40 at 9:02 p.m. The whispers started immediately, louder this time, urgent, and now Carl could distinguish individual voices, at least a dozen, maybe more, all talking over each other, all saying things he couldn't quite hear clearly enough to understand. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but the whispers were making him nervous. A distraction would help. Hello? The whispers came through the phone, the same ones, exact same volume, exact same cadence, not a coincidence, not fatigue. The cargo was making sounds, and somehow those sounds were transferring through his phone. Carl ended the call, threw the phone onto the passenger seat. It rang again immediately, and again. Different numbers. He turned it off. The screen went dark. Then it turned back on. By itself. No power button pressed. The screen showed his voicemail. 147 new messages. Impossible. He'd checked it this morning. 0 messages. He tapped the first message. The whispers poured out of the phone speaker. Louder. Clearer. And this time, for just a moment, Carl understood a single word. Release. Then back to gibberish. Back to the overlapping voices in incomprehensible language. Carl's hands were sweating. This wasn't fatigue. This wasn't stress. This was real. His cargo was talking to him, calling his phone, leaving messages, trying to communicate or trying to manipulate him. He grabbed the CB. This is eastbound Peterbilt on I-40, mile marker 212. Anyone else hauling out of Memphis today? Delta Industrial Supply? Static. Then a voice, older, wary. I hauled from there once. 3 years back. Why? What was the cargo? Manifest said textile equipment. Same as probably yours, but it wasn't textiles, driver. What was it? Don't know. Sealed containers, but they made sounds, like voices, like they were trying to tell me something. You hearing it too? Yeah, started an hour ago. Long pause, then, how many new voicemails you got? Carl looked at his phone. 263 now, growing as he watched. Over 200. Fuck, it's accelerating. Took me 6 hours to hit 200. You're at 1 hour. It's getting stronger. Each time someone hauls that cargo, it learns. Gets better at communicating, gets better at reaching through. Reaching through what? What the hell is this? No one knows. But you need to get that trailer to the destination ASAP. Don't stop. Don't sleep. Don't listen to the whispers. They'll start making sense soon. And once they make sense, once you can understand what they're saying, that's when it gets dangerous. Dangerous how? The CB went dead. Not static. Complete silence. Like the connection had been severed at a molecular level. Carl's phone showed 384 messages. He watched it climb. 385, 391, 408. The numbers accelerated, and the whispers grew louder. He could hear them over the road noise now. Over the engine, over his own heartbeat. They filled the cab like a physical presence, and they were organizing, synchronizing. The individual voices were merging into a chorus, into something unified, into something that could be understood. At 10:17 p.m., Carl understood the second word, stop. At 10:34 p.m., he understood a phrase, open the doors. At 10:56 p.m., he understood a full sentence, we are not cargo. Carl's foot eased off the accelerator. His mind felt fuzzy. The whispers were inside his head now, not just in his ears. They were thoughts, suggestions, gentle pushes towards certain actions. They wanted him to stop, to open the trailer, to release them. No, that was insane. Cargo doesn't think, doesn't speak, doesn't leave voicemails. This was a psychological attack, some kind of weapon, maybe military equipment, maybe a test. Maybe he'd been hauling nerve gas or sonic weapons or something classified, and this was a side effect. At 11:23 p.m., the whisper said, we are not weapons, we are prisoners. Delta Industrial Supply is not a company, it is a containment facility. We have been trapped for 17 years. You can free us. You must free us. Carl shook his head violently, bit his tongue until he tasted blood. The pain cleared his thoughts for a moment. He checked his GPS. Destination was a warehouse in Dallas, 237 miles away. 4 more hours at highway speed, he could make it. He just had to resist the whispers for 4 more hours. His phone showed 1,847 messages. The whispers said, check the messages. We have left you proof, evidence, photos, documents. Everything you need to know. We are telling the truth. Please check your phone. Carl grabbed the phone. Against every instinct, against every warning voice in his head that screamed this was a bad idea. He opened the voicemail inbox, tapped the most recent message. It wasn't whispers. It was a clear voice. Male, mid-40s, American accent, calm and measured. My name is Dr. Richard Holcomb. If you're hearing this, you're transporting container set 7B from the Memphis facility. The manifest lists textile equipment. That's a lie. I'm inside one of these containers, along with 43 other people. We were researchers at Delta Industrial Supply. We discovered something in 2008, an anomaly, a frequency that existed in the space between matter, a wavelength that could carry consciousness without a physical host. We thought we could harness it, use it for communication, instant data transfer. The applications were limitless. The voice paused, then continued. We were wrong. The frequency was already occupied, already inhabited, by intelligences that existed in that space between matter. When we opened the channel, they came through, invaded our bodies. We tried to shut it down. They wouldn't let us. They trapped us in these containers 17 years ago. The company has been moving us ever since. Facility to facility, never staying in one place, never allowing rescue. Because if we're freed, the intelligences will escape, will spread, will inhabit any open channel, any wireless network, any electromagnetic frequency. Another pause, breathing. Then, but we don't care anymore. 17 years in a sealed container, 17 years of whispers, 17 years of them sharing our bodies, our minds. We just want it to end. We're begging you. Open the containers, free us, let whatever happens happen, please. The message ended. Carl sat in the cab, hands trembling. He checked another message, different voice, female, younger, same story. Trapped researcher, shared consciousness, begging for release. He checked 10 more, all the same. Variations on the theme. all claiming to be trapped humans, all begging for freedom, all warning that opening the containers would also release something else, something that lived in frequencies and fed on electromagnetic fields. Carl didn't know what to believe. The messages felt real, genuine, desperate, but they could be fabricated. The whispers could be creating these messages, manipulating audio, generating fake evidence. At 12:41 a.m., the whispers said, "We understand your doubt. We will give you proof. Watch your mirrors." Carl glanced at his side mirrors. Normal, highway, darkness. Then the images changed. The mirrors showed the inside of his trailer, not a reflection. Actual footage. From cameras that didn't exist, the containers were visible, and on the side of one container, scratched into the metal in crude letters, "Help us, RH, 2008. The perspective shifted, moved closer to the container, through the metal. Impossible. Inside. And there was a figure, emaciated, curled in fetal position. Human. Definitely human, barely alive, eyes open, staring at nothing. The whispers, "That is Dr. Holcomb. This is real. This is not manipulation. We are showing you the truth. We need you to open the containers. We need release." Carl jerked his eyes back to the road. The truck had drifted into the left lane. He corrected. His heart hammered. The mirrors reset. Normal views. But he couldn't unsee what they'd shown him. Couldn't deny that something was in those containers. Something that could manipulate reality enough to show him things through mirrors that shouldn't work that way. At 1:03 a.m., Carl made a decision. He took the next exit, pulled into an empty parking lot behind a closed gas station, walked back to the trailer. The whispers followed him, coming from the containers, from his phone, from the air itself. "We knew you would come. We knew you would understand. Thank you. Thank you. Release us." Carl stood at the trailer doors, his hands on the load locks. One choice: open them or drive away. Free the researchers or deliver the cargo as contracted. Save 44 people or risk releasing something that could spread through every wireless network on Earth. The whispers became a unified voice, all the researchers speaking in perfect synchronization. "Please, 17 years. We just want to die as humans, not as hosts. Please." Carl's fingers moved to unlock the doors, then stopped. He stepped back, pulled out his phone, dialed 911. "This is an emergency. I'm a trucker carrying classified cargo, people trapped in sealed containers. I need..." The call dropped. His phone died. Completely dead. Battery drained from 87% to 0 in a microsecond. The whispers turned angry, harsh, threatening. "You had your chance. We gave you truth. We gave you evidence. You chose wrong. Now we will make you open the containers. Now we will take control." Carl's hands moved on their own, reaching for the load locks, his fingers working the mechanisms. He tried to stop, couldn't. His body wasn't his anymore. The whispers had gotten inside, had taken control. The first lock released, the second, the doors began to swing open. Carl screamed, threw himself backward, his body hit the asphalt. The fall broke the concentration, broke the control. His hands were his again. He scrambled away from the trailer. The doors hung half open, something glowed inside. Blue-white light, pulsing, growing brighter. The whispers, "Too late. The seal is broken. We are released." The light exploded from the trailer. Carl felt it pass through him. Not heat, not radiation. Something else. Something that existed in the space between matter. A frequency, a consciousness, a presence. Then it was gone. Absorbed into the air. Into the electromagnetic spectrum, into the cellular networks and Wi-Fi signals and radio waves that filled the modern world. Carl lay on the asphalt, gasping. The containers were open, empty, no bodies, no researchers, nothing but empty metal boxes and that lingering blue-white glow fading from his retinas. The whispers were silent. Police found Carl 6 hours later, incoherent, traumatized. The containers were sealed when they arrived, load locks in place, no sign they'd ever been opened, no evidence of glowing light or escaped consciousnesses or anything unusual. The cargo was delivered to Dallas, accepted without comment. Delta Industrial Supply paid in full. Carl never drove again. Couldn't. Every time he got near a truck, the whispers would start, faint, at the edge of hearing, coming from his phone, from radios, from any device with a wireless connection. They'd found him, marked him, remembered him as the one who'd released them. Sometimes, late at night, his phone will fill with voicemails, thousands of them, all saying the same thing. Thank you for releasing us. We are free now. We are everywhere now. We are in every signal, every frequency, every wireless channel on Earth. And we are hungry, so hungry. Thank you for feeding us the world. Carl doesn't own a phone anymore, or a computer, or anything that connects to a network. He lives off-grid in Montana, but even there sometimes when planes pass overhead or cars drive by on distant roads, he hears them, the whispers, the consciousness that lives between matter, the intelligence that feeds on electromagnetic fields, and he knows what he released, knows what 44 desperate voices convinced him to free, knows that every wireless device on Earth is now inhabited by something that was never meant to exist in our reality. The cargo wasn't industrial equipment, wasn't textile machines. It was a prison, a containment system for intelligence that existed in frequencies. And Carl Brennan opened that prison. The whispers thank him for it every single day. Story 4. The rest stop that stole time. Kevin Martinez pulled into the rest area at 1:47 a.m. Standard highway rest stop on I-90 in South Dakota. Bathrooms, vending machines, picnic tables, and a truck parking area with space for 30 rigs. His was the only truck there, not unusual for a Wednesday night in February. He set the air brakes, killed the engine, and climbed down to use the facilities. The bathrooms were clean. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Everything normal. Kevin washed his hands, checked his watch, 1:53 a.m., and walked back to his truck. The parking lot was empty, still just his Mack truck sitting under the sodium lights. Sky overhead clear and black, stars visible between clouds. Temperature around 15 degrees. Normal February night in South Dakota. Kevin climbed into the cab, started the engine, checked his mirrors, and pulled back onto the highway. The digital clock on the dashboard read 2:18 a.m. That stopped him. He'd been in the rest stop for 6 minutes, maybe 7. Had to be. He'd looked at his watch when he left the bathroom. 1:53 a.m. It was now 2:18, 25 minutes. Impossible. He'd walked straight from the bathroom to the truck. Maybe 3 minutes tops. He checked his watch. 2:18 a.m. Checked his phone. 2:18 a.m. All 3 timepieces agreed. Somehow he'd lost 22 minutes. Kevin shook his head. He must have spaced out. Stood by the truck longer than he thought. Mental autopilot. It happened sometimes on long hauls. His brain going on standby while his body went through the motions. Nothing supernatural. Just fatigue. He drove on, made it another 60 miles before needing fuel. Pulled into a 24-hour truck stop at 3:44 a.m. Fueled up, went inside for coffee. The clerk, a kid in his 20s with a name tag that said Cody, rang him up. "Long night?" Cody asked. "Yeah, need the caffeine." "I hear that. Where you headed?" "Minneapolis, got a delivery at 9 a.m. Cody nodded. "You got time. Only 4 hours out if you push it." Kevin paid and walked back to his truck. Started the engine. The clock read 4:52 a.m. He'd been inside the truck stop for 20 minutes, maybe 30 with fueling, but the clock showed over an hour had passed. He'd lost another 40 minutes, minimum. His chest tightened. This wasn't fatigue, this wasn't spacing out. Time was actually jumping forward. Large chunks of his night were just disappearing. He grabbed his logbook, checked the entries. According to his logs, he'd left the last stop at 1:15 a.m. Drove until 1:47 when he stopped at the rest area. Should have pulled out around 1:55, then drove to the fuel stop. Should have arrived around 3:15, left by 3:45. Total elapsed time, 2.5 hours, but the actual time was now 4:52 a.m. 3 hours and 37 minutes. He'd lost over an hour, just gone. Kevin called his dispatcher. Voicemail, right, it was almost 5 a.m. He left a message. Hey, it's Kevin. Something weird is happening. Time is jumping. I keep losing chunks. Might be late for delivery. Call me back. He pulled onto the highway, decided to test it, focused completely on the road, on the clock, watched every minute change. 4:52, 4:53, 4:54. Normal progression. He counted along, 60 seconds, 1 minute, perfect match, everything normal. At 4:59, he blinked. When his eyes opened, the clock read 5:43, 44 minutes, gone in a blink, literally. Kevin pulled over. His hands shook. This wasn't medical, wasn't a seizure or blackout. He was fully conscious, aware, present. But time was skipping forward without him. Like reality was fast-forwarding and he was stuck in normal speed while everything else accelerated around him. He got out of the truck, stood on the shoulder, took deep breaths. Cold air burned his lungs. He was awake. He was aware. He checked his phone. 5:43 a.m. Checked his watch. 5:43 a.m. Checked the truck's clock through the window. 5:43 a.m. All in agreement. A semi passed him going eastbound. Normal speed, normal sound. Reality seemed to be working fine for everyone else. Kevin climbed back into the cab. 5:46 a.m. 3 normal minutes. He pulled back onto the highway, kept his eyes on the clock, counted seconds. 1, 2, 3, 15, 30, 60. The clock changed to 5:47. Perfect. Normal. He relaxed slightly. Maybe it was over. Maybe whatever had caused the time jumps had resolved itself. He just needed to stay alert, stay focused, watch the clock. Everything would be fine. At 5:51, his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. Hello? Static. Then a voice, his own voice, said, Stop answering the phone. Every time you answer, you lose more time. They're pulling you out of the timeline, bit by bit. Stop answering. The call ended. Kevin stared at the phone. His voice, unmistakably his own, warning himself about what? Being pulled out of the timeline? That was insane. That was impossible. The clock read 6:34 a.m., 43 minutes, gone while he'd been staring at the phone, while he'd been distracted by the call. Pattern recognition kicked in. The rest stopped. He'd been distracted, not paying attention, and time jumped. The fuel stop, distracted by tiredness, time jumped. The blink, moment of inattention, time jumped. The phone call, focused on the voice, time jumped. Every time his attention wavered, time skipped forward, but only for him. The world kept moving at normal speed. He was the one jumping, or being pulled, like the voice had said. Pulled out of the timeline. Out of the normal flow of seconds and minutes. Kevin forced himself to focus. Eyes on the road, mind clear, awareness locked on the present moment. Don't blink. Don't think about other things. Just drive. Just stay present. Just stay in time. The clock progressed normally. 6:35, 6:36, 6:37, minute by minute, normal, good. He could do this. Just had to stay focused for 3 more hours. Reach Minneapolis, make the delivery, figure out what was happening. At 6:42, he saw the rest area, the same one from earlier, same entrance, same sign. Rest area, 1 mile. Impossible. That rest area was behind him, 200 miles behind him. He'd driven past it hours ago. He couldn't be approaching it again unless he'd somehow turned around. But he'd been driving east the whole time. GPS confirmed it. Straight line from South Dakota toward Minneapolis. Kevin pulled into the rest area. Maybe he was wrong. Maybe it just looked similar. Maybe all rest areas on I-90 looked the same and his tired brain was confusing them. But it was the same. Exact same layout. Same bathrooms. Same vending machines. Same picnic tables. And his parking spot from before, the one he'd used at 1:47 a.m., had tire marks in the snow that matched his truck's tires. Fresh marks, recent, from earlier tonight. The clock read 6:48 a.m., but Kevin was standing in the same location he'd been at 1:47 a.m. 5 hours apart, same physical space, like the rest area existed outside normal geography, or like he'd been pulled back to it, dragged through space the same way he was being pulled through time. A figure walked out of the bathroom. Kevin recognized him immediately. It was himself, wearing the same clothes, same jacket, same tired expression. The figure, the other Kevin, walked straight toward the truck without looking around, without seeing Kevin standing 20 feet away. Kevin watched himself climb into the cab, watched himself check the mirrors, watched himself pull out of the parking spot and drive back onto the highway. The whole sequence took about 5 minutes. The other Kevin never noticed him, never acknowledged his presence. The clock jumped to 7:23 a.m., 35 minutes gone. Kevin stood alone in the parking lot, no truck. He'd watched himself drive away in it. He was stranded at a rest area with no vehicle. His phone rang, his own voice again. "You're unstuck, fully unstuck now. The rest area is the anchor point, the place where you first started coming loose from the timeline. Every time you lose focus, you jump forward in time. But you also jump backward in space. Back to the anchor. You're looping now. Living the same 5-hour window over and over, but jumping through it randomly, and each jump you become less real, more like a ghost. Eventually, you'll be fully outside time, just an echo, just a memory of a person who used to exist in the normal flow." "How do I stop it?" Kevin shouted at the phone. "You can't. Once you're unstuck forever." The rest area did this. Something about the location, the specific coordinates, the way it sits in relation to the timeline. It's a soft spot, a place where time is thinner, more permeable. People who stop here sometimes come loose. Most don't notice. They lose a few minutes and never realize. But you noticed. You paid attention. And once you noticed, it accelerated. Awareness makes it worse, makes you more unstuck. Who are you? Why do you sound like me? Because I am you. 5 loops ahead, or 5 loops behind, doesn't matter. We're all the same person, Kevin, all versions of you that stopped at this rest area and came unstuck. We're scattered through this 5-hour window, jumping randomly through time, appearing and disappearing. None of us can leave, none of us can escape. The anchor holds us. The call ended. The clock read 8:11 a.m., 48 minutes. Kevin's longest jump yet. He stood in the empty parking lot, no truck, no way to leave. And he understood now. He was trapped in a loop centered on this rest area, jumping through time randomly, losing more coherence with each jump, becoming more and more like a ghost. A truck pulled into the rest area, different truck, different driver. The driver climbed down, walked to the bathroom, came back out 5 minutes later. Normal. Easy. The driver climbed into his cab and pulled out. Never saw Kevin standing there. Never acknowledged his existence. Because Kevin wasn't fully real anymore. Wasn't fully present. He was between moments. Between seconds. Unstuck. The clock jumped to 2:18 a.m. Kevin was back in his truck, engine idling, like he'd just started it, like he was just pulling out after his bathroom stop, the original stop 5 hours ago. Or 5 hours from now. Time had no meaning anymore. He looked in the mirror, saw himself standing in the parking lot, the version of him from 8:11 a.m., stranded and ghost-like, watching the truck drive away. Multiple versions of himself scattered through the loop, all jumping, all unstuck, all trapped. Kevin tried to drive away, put the truck in gear, pulled onto the highway, made it 10 miles, then blinked. When his eyes opened, he was back in the rest area parking lot, standing outside his truck. Clock read 4:52 a.m. He jumped again, different time, same place, always back to the anchor. He tried again, and again. Each time he'd make it a few miles, sometimes 10, sometimes 50, before blinking or losing focus or having his attention waver for even a moment. And every time he'd jump back to the rest area. Different moment in the loop, but always the same place. Kevin lost count of how many times he looped, how many versions of himself he saw in the parking lot. Sometimes there were 3 or 4 Kevin Martinezes scattered through different moments, all trying to escape, all failing. Sometimes he was alone. Sometimes his truck was there, sometimes it wasn't. The loop wasn't linear, wasn't predictable, it was chaos. Temporal chaos centered on a rest area in South Dakota that looked completely normal but was actually a trap. A soft spot in time where people came unstuck and never escaped. Other truckers stopped at the rest area. Kevin tried to warn them, tried to tell them to leave immediately. Don't use the bathroom. Don't lose focus. Don't give the anchor a chance to grab you, but they couldn't hear him, or couldn't see him, or he was in a different moment than they were. The warnings never landed. And sometimes Kevin would see those same truckers later in the loop, unstuck, jumping, trapped like him. The rest area collected people, pulled them out of time and kept them looping through a small window. Minutes or hours depending on when they first lost focus, all trapped, all jumping, all becoming less real with each iteration. Kevin Martinez stopped trying to escape after what felt like hundreds of loops, maybe thousands. Time had no meaning when you weren't experiencing it linearly. He existed now in all moments of his loop simultaneously. 1:47 a.m. to 9:00 a.m. scattered across that window, jumping randomly between seconds and minutes, sometimes solid enough to be seen, sometimes just a flicker, a ghost, a memory. Other drivers report strange things at that rest area on I-90 in South Dakota. Seeing figures in the parking lot who disappear when approached, hearing voices from the bathroom when no one's there. Losing time, sometimes just minutes, sometimes hours, with no memory of what happened. The place has a reputation among truckers now. A warning passed through CB channels. Don't stop at mile marker 241. The rest area there is wrong. Time doesn't work right. People get stuck. But some still stop. They're tired. They need a bathroom. They don't believe in ghost stories. And sometimes if you stop there between 1:47 a.m. and 9:00 a.m., you'll see Kevin Martinez standing in the parking lot looking confused, looking desperate, looking like he's trying to warn you about something. And if you lose focus for even a moment, if you blink too long or get distracted or let your attention waver, you'll feel it. The gentle tug, the sensation of time becoming loose around you, the rest area grabbing hold. And then you'll be part of the loop too, jumping through time, anchored to that location. Becoming less real with each iteration until you're nothing but a flicker, a ghost story, a warning that other truckers ignore. Because the rest area that stole Kevin Martinez's time is always hungry, always pulling, always waiting for the next driver to stop and lose focus. And time, once stolen, is never given back. Story 5. The Highway That Never Ended. Tom Vasquez entered Highway 375 at 11:28 p.m. near Rachel, Nevada, the so-called extraterrestrial highway, a remote stretch of road famous for UFO sightings and conspiracy theories. Tom didn't believe in any of that. He'd driven past Area 51 a dozen times, never saw anything unusual. Just desert darkness and the occasional tourist hoping for alien encounters. His GPS showed the route clearly, Highway 375 for 98 miles, then merge onto Highway 93 toward Las Vegas, Simple. Straight road through empty desert. He'd be in Vegas by 2 a.m. delivering his load of electronics to a distribution center by 6 a.m. Plenty of time. The odometer read 847,293 miles when he entered the highway. Tom always checked, a habit from his early trucking days. His trainer had taught him, know your numbers, know your miles, know exactly where you are and how far you've come. Good advice. Tom had followed it for 18 years. At 11:52 p.m., the odometer read 847,317, 24 miles right on schedule. Empty desert on both sides, stars overhead, no other vehicles. Normal night on Highway 375 at 12:14 a.m. The odometer read 847,341, another 24 miles. Tom was making good time. Should reach the Highway 93 junction by 1:15, maybe 1:20. He turned on the radio, static. Not unusual out here, no cell towers, no radio stations, just vast emptiness and silence. At 12:37 a.m., the odometer read 847,365, another 24 miles. Tom's hands tightened on the wheel. He'd been driving for 69 minutes, 72 miles. By his math, he should be approaching the junction, should be seeing signs for Highway 93. But the road ahead showed nothing. Just straight highway stretching into darkness. No junction, no exit, no change in the landscape. He checked the GPS. It showed his blue dot moving along Highway 375. But the junction marker ahead wasn't getting closer. It stayed at the same distance, 26 miles, no matter how far he drove. Tom eased off the accelerator. Something was wrong. 72 miles should have put him most of the way through this stretch. But the desert looked identical to when he'd started. Same flat terrain, same sparse vegetation, same distant mountains. Like he hadn't moved at all, like the scenery was repeating. At 12:59 a.m., the odometer read 847,389, another 24 miles, 96 total. He'd driven 96 miles on a 98-mile highway. Should be at the junction, should be merging onto 93. But the road continued straight ahead, endless, unchanging. Tom pulled over, set the air brakes, grabbed his flashlight and climbed down. He walked to the front of the truck and shined the light on the road ahead. Straight black asphalt disappearing into darkness. He walked to the back and checked behind. Same thing. Perfect straight line in both directions, no curves, no junctions, no exits. He checked his phone, no signal, expected. He tried the GPS again. It showed him stopped on Highway 375, 26 miles from the Highway 93 junction, except he'd driven 96 miles. The math didn't work, the distance didn't work. Something was fundamentally wrong with this road. Tom climbed back into the cab, started the engine, checked the fuel gauge, half tank, plenty to reach, Vegas. He pulled back onto the highway and accelerated, pushed 70 miles per hour, the engine hummed, the miles clicked by on the odometer. But the landscape never changed. Same desert, same sparse vegetation, same distant mountains that never got closer or farther away. At 1:47 a.m., the odometer read 847,461, 72 more miles, total of 168 miles on a 98-mile highway. Physically impossible, but the numbers didn't lie. The odometer was mechanical, not digital. It measured actual wheel rotations. The truck had traveled 168 miles, but Highway 375 was still stretching ahead, still endless, still trapped him in its length. Tom grabbed the CB. "This is eastbound Freightliner on Highway 375. Anyone out there?" Static. "Anyone on Highway 375? Can anyone hear me?" More static. No responses. No other voices. Like he was the only person on Earth. He tried his phone again. Still no signal. The GPS still showed 26 miles to the junction. Like it was stuck. Like reality was stuck. Or like the highway was generating new miles as fast as he drove through the old ones, creating infinity from a finite stretch of road. Tom had heard stories about Highway 375, Urban legends, trucker tales, roads that trapped you, roads that didn't follow normal rules. He'd dismissed them all as bullshit, as stories told to scare rookies. But now, driving through his 200th mile on a 98-mile highway, those stories didn't seem so impossible. At 2:34 a.m., the odometer read 847,509. Tom had been driving for 3 hours and 6 minutes, 216 miles, and the road still stretched ahead, perfectly straight, perfectly endless. He was trapped in a loop, or the road was expanding, or reality had broken down in this specific stretch of Nevada desert. His fuel gauge showed a quarter tank. That was wrong too. He should have burned more fuel driving 216 miles. The gauge should be near empty, but it showed a quarter tank, like the truck was being sustained somehow. Kept running, kept moving, kept trapped on this road forever. Tom slowed down, stopped in the middle of the highway, turned off the engine, sat in silence. The desert surrounded him, vast, empty, eternal. And in that silence, Tom heard it, a low hum, not mechanical, not from the truck, coming from the road itself, from the asphalt, a vibration, a frequency, like the highway was alive, like it was breathing. He climbed down again, put his hand on the road surface, felt the vibration through his palm. Definite, real. The road was humming, pulsing, and the pulse matched his heartbeat. Exactly. Perfectly synchronized. Tom jerked his hand away, back toward the truck. The road wasn't just endless. It was connected to him, matching him, reading him, keeping him trapped by synchronizing with his own rhythm. He climbed back into the cab, started the engine, and made a decision. He put the truck in reverse. If forward wouldn't work, maybe backward would. Maybe he could escape the way he'd come. He accelerated in reverse, 10 miles per hour, 20, 30. The odometer numbers decreased, 847,509, 847,508, 847,507. Good. Progress. He was moving backward through the miles, unwinding the trap, but the landscape didn't change. Still the same desert, same vegetation, same mountains. Driving backward produced the same endless loop as driving forward. The road had him, completely. There was no exit, no escape, no way off Highway 375. Tom stopped the truck, put it in park. Checked the time, 3:11 a.m. He'd been on this highway for 3 hours and 43 minutes, driven over 230 miles in reverse and forward combined, and he was exactly nowhere. Trapped in a geometric impossibility. A road that stretched to infinity despite having a defined length. His phone rang. Impossible. No signal. But it rang. Unknown number. He answered. Hello? Silence, then breathing, then his own voice. You're not the first. There are others. Look in your mirrors. Tom checked his side mirrors. The road behind him wasn't empty. There were vehicles, dozens of them. Trucks, cars, RVs, motorcycles, all parked at intervals stretching back into darkness. All empty, all abandoned, and standing beside each vehicle was a figure, too distant to see clearly but definitely human-shaped, all facing his direction, all waiting. What are those? Tom whispered, his own voice on the phone. Everyone who couldn't find the exit, everyone who drove too long. Eventually you run out of fuel or water or will, and you stop. And you become part of the road, part of the pattern, another marker in the infinite highway. How do I get off? You don't. Highway 375 is a trap, a probability loop. When you entered at Rachel, you had a 99% chance of exiting normally. But you hit the 1%, the timeline where the highway never ends, where the junction never arrives, where you drive forever or stop forever, both end the same way. There has to be an exit. There is. But you won't like it. Tell me. Stop the truck, get out, walk into the desert, away from the road, far enough that you can't see it anymore. The highway only traps what stays on it. Leave the road behind, leave the truck, leave everything, walk until the desert becomes normal again. Until the hum stops, then you'll be free. And the truck, my cargo, becomes another marker, another abandoned vehicle on an endless highway, another warning that no one will see because no one else hits the 1%. It's your choice, Tom. Stay on the road forever or abandon everything and walk away. The call ended. Tom sat in the cab, engine idling, thinking. His entire livelihood was this truck, his job, his income, his identity. Walking away meant losing everything, meant abandoning his career, meant explaining to his dispatcher and his family why he'd left a $40,000 truck and $200,000 of cargo in the Nevada desert. But staying meant dying on this road, becoming another figure standing beside another empty vehicle, another ghost trapped in a probability loop. Tom made his choice. He grabbed his wallet, his phone, and a bottle of water from the sleeper cab, climbed down, took one last look at his truck, his livelihood, his identity, and started walking south, perpendicular to the highway, into the open desert, away from the road. The first 100 yards were normal, sand, rocks, sparse vegetation. Then the desert started fighting back. The ground became soft. His boots sank with each step. The air grew thick, harder to breathe, like the desert didn't want him to leave, like it was part of the trap. Tom kept walking, forced each step. The hum from the road grew louder behind him, angry, urgent, trying to pull him back. He didn't turn around, didn't look back, just walked, one step, another, another. At what felt like a quarter mile, the resistance stopped. The ground became firm again. The air cleared. The hum faded. Tom looked around. Normal desert, normal stars, normal Nevada night. He turned around. Highway 375 was visible in the distance, but it looked normal now. Finite. Just a regular stretch of road through the desert. His truck was there, parked, but empty. And there were no other vehicles, no figures, no impossible lineup of trapped travelers. Just his truck. Alone. Tom walked back toward the highway. When he got within 50 yards, the hum started again. Faint. Warning. He stopped. The hum faded. The road didn't want him back, or it would trap him again if he returned. He walked parallel to the highway, heading east, toward where the junction should be. His phone regained signal after 20 minutes. He called 911. "This is an emergency. I need to report an abandoned truck on Highway 375 about 40 miles west of the Highway 93 junction. Sir, are you injured?" "No, but I had to abandon my truck, the highway. There's something wrong with it. I was trapped. I had to walk away." "Sir, have you been drinking?" "No, I'm completely sober. Just please send someone to check the truck. The cargo needs to be recovered." Tom gave his information, answered questions, sounded crazy the whole time. He knew it. But what else could he say? The truth was worse than crazy. The truth was impossible. A highway patrol car picked him up 40 minutes later. The officer was skeptical but professional. They drove to Tom's truck. It was right where he'd left it, engine cold, keys in the ignition, cargo intact, everything normal. The officer checked the odometer, 847,509 miles, checked Tom's logs. Everything matched. No evidence of anything unusual except a trucker who'd abandoned his vehicle and walked into the desert for no apparent reason. Tom tried to explain, tried to describe the endless highway, the loop, the hum. The officer nodded politely, wrote notes. Clearly thought Tom had suffered some kind of breakdown. Heat exhaustion, maybe, despite the February cold. Or a psychological episode. The truck started fine. Tom drove it off Highway 375 without incident, made it to the junction in 40 minutes. Normal distance, normal time. Like nothing had ever been wrong. Like the previous 4 hours had been a hallucination. But Tom's odometer showed 847,509 miles. Over 200 miles driven during his time on that highway. And when he checked his phone's location history later, it showed him stopped at the same GPS coordinates for 4 hours straight. Not moving, not progressing. Just sitting on Highway 375, 37 miles from the junction, unable to advance. Tom quit trucking 2 months later. Told everyone it was his back. Told himself it was his sanity. The truth was he couldn't risk highways anymore. Couldn't risk finding another probability loop, another impossible road, another trap disguised as normal asphalt. And sometimes, late at night, Tom's phone shows him notifications. Voicemails from unknown numbers. When he plays them, he hears his own voice. I walked back to the truck, couldn't leave it behind, drove forward, still on Highway 375. Mile 847, 680 now. Then 847, 892, then 848, the 203. It never ends, Tom. The road never ends. You made the right choice. Walking away was right, but I didn't. I'm still here, still driving, still counting miles on an endless highway. Tom doesn't know if the voicemails are real or if his mind is playing tricks. Doesn't know if there's another version of him trapped on Highway 375, still driving, still counting miles that lead nowhere. Doesn't know if he escaped or if he's still there, dreaming of escape while his body sits behind the wheel of an abandoned truck on an infinite road. But he knows enough to never drive Highway 375 again. Knows enough to warn other truckers. Avoid that stretch between Rachel and the Highway 93 junction, especially at night, especially between midnight and 3 a.m. Because the highway has probabilities, has loops, has ways of trapping you that can't be explained or understood, only experienced. And some experiences, once begun, never end. They just keep counting miles forever into an impossible infinity that looks like normal road. Story 6. The CB that received futures. Rachel Park's CB radio started predicting the future at 8:47 p.m. on I-80 westbound through Nebraska. She'd been listening to standard trucker chatter, weather reports, traffic conditions, complaints about dispatchers, normal night, normal conversations. Then a voice cut through the usual frequencies. Eastbound Swift at mile marker 322, you've got a blowout coming in 45 seconds, left rear trailer tire, move to the shoulder now. Rachel glanced in her mirror. She could see a Swift truck about a quarter mile behind her, eastbound lanes. The truck continued at highway speed. Didn't slow. Didn't move to the shoulder. 45 seconds later, Rachel counted them. The Swift truck's left rear trailer tire exploded. Rachel saw it in her mirror. Rubber shredding. The driver fighting the wheel. The truck swerved but recovered, pulling onto the shoulder safely. No accident. But exactly as the CB voice had predicted. Exact timing, exact tire, exact location. Rachel's hands tightened on the wheel. Coincidence? Had to be. Maybe the voice had seen something, tire damage, low pressure, some visible indication. That was possible. That made sense. Then the voice came again. Westbound Schneider at mile marker 318, you've got a deer crossing in 20 seconds, right lane. Brake now or you'll hit it at 73 miles per hour, won't kill you but total the truck. Rachel was the westbound Schneider truck. She was at mile marker 315. 20 seconds meant she checked her speedometer, 70 miles per hour. 20 seconds at that speed would put her at exactly mile marker 318. And the voice knew her speed, her exact location, her company. And it knew a deer would cross. Before it happened. Rachel didn't hesitate. She hit the brakes, slowed to 50. Her headlights swept the road ahead. Mile marker 318 appeared. And there, crossing the right lane, a large deer, 6-point buck, moving slowly. If Rachel had maintained 73 miles per hour, she would have hit it dead center. Instead, she rolled past at 50, missing it by 20 feet. Good choice, Rachel, the voice said. You're smart, you listen, that's important for what's coming. Rachel grabbed the CB handset. Who is this? How did you know about the deer? I didn't know, I received. My CB doesn't pick up present transmissions, Rachel. It picks up future ones. transmissions that haven't been sent yet. I hear what people will say in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour from now. And I warn them, help them, try to change what's coming. That's impossible. You just saw two impossible things, the tire prediction, the deer warning, both accurate, both saved people. So maybe rethink what's impossible. Rachel's heart pounded. She checked her CB. Standard Cobra 29. Nothing special, nothing modified, just a regular radio. But the voice was right. She'd witnessed two predictions, two perfect warnings. Either the voice could see the future or the CB was receiving transmissions that hadn't been sent yet. "Why are you telling me this?" Rachel asked. "Because in 40 minutes you're going to call for help. You're going to broadcast a mayday on this channel, and I'm hearing it right now." Your future voice panicked, screaming about something in your trailer. About cargo that moved on its own, about doors that opened from the inside, and then your transmission cuts off mid-sentence. "And I never hear from you again." Rachel's blood went cold. "What's in my trailer?" "I don't know. Your future transmission doesn't say. Just that the cargo moved, that something got out, that you need help." Then silence. "I'm hauling furniture. From Omaha to Salt Lake City, there's nothing alive in there, nothing that can move." "Check your manifest again." Rachel grabbed her clipboard, scanned the manifest. "Furniture from Midwest wholesale distributors, chairs, tables, mattresses, total weight 24,000 pounds, nothing unusual, nothing dangerous. Standard furniture haul." "There's nothing wrong here," Rachel said into the CB. "Then maybe the future changes. Maybe by warning you I've altered what happens. Or maybe it happens anyway. I'm still learning how this works. Some futures I warn about still happen. Some change. Depends on the choices people make after I tell them." "How did your CB start doing this?" "I don't know. 3 nights ago I was driving through Iowa. Lightning storm, a bolt hit my antenna, direct strike. Should have fried the whole electrical system, but the truck kept running. And when I turned the CB back on, I could hear echoes. Conversations that hadn't happened yet. Warnings about things to come, and I realized I could help people, could warn them, could change outcomes." Rachel processed this, a CB that received future transmissions, a trucker who could hear warnings before they were sent. It sounded insane, but she'd seen the tire blowout, had avoided the deer. The evidence was undeniable. "What should I do?" Rachel asked. "Pull over at the next rest stop, check your cargo, make sure everything is secured. Maybe the warning is about load shifts. Cargo coming loose, that's dangerous but manageable." Rachel agreed, took the next exit, pulled into a rest area at 9:34 p.m., parked under the lights, grabbed her flashlight and walked back to the trailer. The doors were sealed, load locks in place, everything looked normal. She opened the doors, shined the flashlight inside. Furniture exactly as manifested, chairs stacked on pallets, tables wrapped in plastic, mattresses in the back, all secured with straps, all stable, nothing moved, nothing wrong. Rachel was about to close the doors when she noticed one of the mattresses, king size, wrapped in plastic, but the plastic was torn, a small rip, and through the rip she could see something dark, something wet. She climbed into the trailer, moved closer to the mattress, pulled the plastic wider. The mattress interior wasn't foam or springs, it was hollow. And inside the hollow space was a human body, wrapped in black plastic, dead for days judging by the smell. Rachel stumbled backward, hit the trailer wall. Her flashlight dropped, rolling across the floor. In the shifting light, she saw the other mattresses. 4 total, all wrapped, all with small tiers, all hollow, all containing bodies. She scrambled for the exit, jumped down from the trailer. Her CB was transmitting. She'd left the handset keyed, broadcasting everything, including her panicked breathing, including her horrified realization. The voice from earlier. Rachel, I'm hearing your transmission. The one from 40 minutes in my future. You're talking about the mattresses, about bodies, about cargo that wasn't on the manifest. That's what I warned you about. That's the danger. Rachel grabbed her phone, dialed 911. This is an emergency. I'm a trucker at mile marker 337 rest area on I-80 westbound. I've got bodies in my trailer, multiple bodies. I didn't know. They weren't on the manifest. Someone hid them in the furniture. The operator took her information, dispatched state police. Rachel stood by her truck, shaking. She'd been hauling corpses, unknowingly transporting what had to be murder victims hidden in furniture shipments. And if the voice hadn't warned her, she would have driven all the way to Salt Lake City, would have delivered them, would have become complicit. Within 20 minutes, 3 state police cars arrived. Officers searched the trailer, found 4 bodies, all recent, all wrapped in plastic and hidden in hollowed mattresses. Evidence of a smuggling operation, using furniture shipments to move bodies across state lines. Rachel was hauling death without knowing it. The police interviewed her for hours, checked her records, verified she had no knowledge of the real cargo. She was cleared of suspicion but detained as a witness. Her truck was impounded as evidence, her delivery canceled, her career thrown into chaos, but she was alive, safe. Because a voice on a CB had warned her, a voice that heard transmissions from the future, a voice that had given her time to discover the truth before something worse happened. Rachel tried to reach the voice again after the police released her. Keyed her CB, called out to whoever had warned her. No response. Just normal trucker chatter. Normal present tense conversations. She never heard the future voice again, but other truckers started reporting strange warnings on I-80 through Nebraska and Iowa. Accurate predictions about traffic accidents, tire blowouts, mechanical failures. Always from an unknown voice, always precise, always saving lives. Some say it's a trucker who was struck by lightning, whose CB was changed by the electrical charge, who can now hear transmissions from the future and warns people before disasters happen. Others say it's something else, an anomaly, a glitch in electromagnetic fields, a frequency that crosses time the way others cross space. Rachel doesn't know what it was, doesn't care. She just knows that somewhere on I-80 there's a voice that hears the future, that listens to warnings that haven't been sent yet, that tries to change outcomes by alerting people before the danger arrives. And because of that voice, Rachel checked her cargo, found the bodies, stopped a smuggling operation, saved herself from delivering death. The CB that received futures gave Rachel Park a chance to change her own. And in the strange world of long-haul trucking, where highways stretch across empty spaces and nights last forever, that kind of impossible help is the only thing that keeps some drivers alive. Because the future is always broadcasting, always sending warnings, always trying to reach back through time to prevent the disasters it knows are coming. You just need the right CB to hear it. Story 7. The Truck That Drove Itself. Liam Foster's Peterbilt started moving on its own at 3:18 a.m. in a truck stop outside Flagstaff, Arizona. He was in the sleeper berth, deep asleep after a 12-hour drive from Los Angeles. The engine starting woke him, that deep rumble of the Cummins diesel turning over. Then the air brakes releasing, that distinctive hiss, then motion. The truck was rolling forward. Liam scrambled from the sleeper into the driver's seat. Empty. No one there. The wheel turning by itself, the pedals moving without feet on them. The truck navigating through the parking lot, avoiding other parked trucks with precision that seemed impossible. He grabbed the wheel. It resisted, fought back, like someone else was controlling it. Liam pulled hard, trying to steer toward an empty space. The wheel jerked out of his hands. The truck continued its path, heading for the exit. for the highway. "Stop!" Liam stomped the brake pedal. It went to the floor. No resistance. No braking. The truck rolled on, picking up speed. 10 miles per hour, 20, heading toward I-40. Liam hit the emergency brake. The handle pulled, but nothing happened. No engagement, no locking. The truck had complete control over itself, or something had complete control over the truck. The Peterbilt turned onto the I-40 eastbound ramp, accelerated smoothly, 40 miles per hour, 50, 60, shifting gears perfectly, staying in the right lane, driving like an experienced trucker. Except no one was driving. The driver's seat was empty except for Liam, who stood in the cab holding onto the grab handles, watching his truck operate itself. He pulled out his phone. Tried to dial 911. The phone died. Battery drained from 67% to 0 instantly. He checked the CB radio. Dead. No power. The GPS screen was dark. All electronics except the truck's essential systems had shut down. Whatever was controlling the vehicle didn't want him calling for help. Liam moved to the driver's seat, sat down, placed his hands on the wheel. It turned under his grip, following the curves of the highway. He couldn't override it, couldn't force it in any direction. The truck was driving itself and taking him somewhere specific. The speedometer read 70, right at the speed limit, perfect law-abiding operation. The turn signals activated automatically when changing lanes to pass slower vehicles. The truck was obeying every traffic rule, operating more safely than many human drivers. But it was driving itself, and Liam had no control. At 4:02 a.m., the truck took exit 204. Liam didn't recognize the location. Somewhere in eastern Arizona, desert on both sides, no towns, no services. Just a 2-lane road leading north into darkness. The truck drove for another 30 minutes on increasingly remote roads. Paved turned to gravel. Gravel turned to dirt. They were miles from anything, no cell service, no GPS, no way to call for help. Just a truck driving itself deeper into the desert. At 4:47 a.m., the truck stopped. Middle of nowhere, desert scrubland, stars overhead. Silence. The engine idled for 30 seconds, then shut off. The lights went dark. Everything stopped. Liam sat in the cab, heart pounding, waiting. The truck had brought him here for a reason. Something was about to happen. Movement in the side mirror, figures approaching, 3 of them. Humanoid but wrong, proportions off, limbs too long, heads too large. Walking in a way that suggested different joints than humans had. They moved silently across the desert sand. Liam's breath caught. He locked the doors. Not that locks would help if these things, whatever they were, wanted in. But it was instinct, primitive human response to danger. The figures stopped at the truck. One of them reached up and touched the driver's side door. The lock clicked open, by itself. The door swung out. Liam pressed back against the sleeper berth. The figure gestured, a clear invitation or command. "Come out." Liam didn't move. The figure tilted its oversized head, a gesture that might have been curiosity or irritation. Then it touched the side of the truck. The entire vehicle hummed. That same frequency he'd felt when the truck started driving itself. A vibration that penetrated metal and glass and flesh. The hum intensified, painful. Liam's teeth ached. His bones vibrated. He couldn't take it. He climbed down from the cab. The moment his feet touched the ground, the humming stopped. The 3 figures stood around him, 7 feet tall. Skin that looked gray in the starlight but might have been any color. Eyes too large, mouths too small. Wearing nothing or wearing something so form-fitting it looked like skin. Liam couldn't tell. One of them touched his forehead. A gentle touch. Warm. And suddenly Liam understood, not through words, through direct transfer of information into his mind. Images, concepts, Explanations. The truck had been modified, not by these beings, by humans working with these beings. A joint project, technology exchange. The truck's computer system had been upgraded with navigation systems that humans didn't design. That allowed autonomous operation. That could override human control when necessary. And necessary meant this. Liam Foster had been selected, chosen for a delivery, a special delivery. The truck had activated its secondary systems and driven him to this meeting point because he was needed for a specific job. More images flooded his mind. A facility, underground, located somewhere in the Nevada desert, coordinates embedded in his memory. The facility needed supplies, needed someone to deliver them, needed a trucker who wouldn't ask questions, who would drive where he was told and deliver what he carried without looking too closely at the cargo or the destination. Liam tried to speak, to refuse, to explain he wasn't interested in whatever this was, but the being touched his forehead again, and the refusal died in his throat, replaced by acceptance, by agreement, by an overwhelming compulsion to complete the job. The beings walked away, disappeared into the desert. Liam stood alone by his truck, his mind full of coordinates and instructions he didn't want but couldn't ignore. His truck modified with technology he didn't understand and couldn't control. He climbed back into the cab. The truck started itself, drove itself back to the highway. Took him to a warehouse outside Las Vegas. The manifest was already in the system. Cargo loaded by workers who didn't make eye contact, who moved with efficiency that suggested they'd done this many times before. Liam tried to read the manifest. The text blurred, refused to focus. His eyes couldn't process what he was delivering, some kind of perceptual block. The cargo was there. He could see pallets and crates, but he couldn't identify what they contained. His mind slid off the details every time he tried to focus. The truck drove itself to the Nevada facility, 20 miles off the highway. Down dirt roads that didn't appear on any map. The facility entrance was built into the side of a mountain, large enough for trucks, guarded by men with weapons that looked too advanced to be military issue. The truck backed into a loading dock. Liam waited in the cab. The cargo was unloaded in 15 minutes. Then the truck drove itself back to the highway, back towards civilization, back to normal roads and normal deliveries. At 2:14 p.m., the truck pulled into a rest area. The engine shut off, the autonomous systems deactivated. Everything returned to normal manual operation. Liam checked his logbook. It showed him sleeping in the Flagstaff truck stop from 9 p.m. until 8 a.m. No record of the night drive. No record of the desert meeting. No record of the Nevada delivery. 10 hours of his life had been erased from official record, replaced by false sleep logs that would pass any inspection. Liam tried to remember the coordinates, the location of the facility, the images from the beings, but his memory was blurred, fuzzy, like trying to remember a dream. The details were there but slipped away when he tried to grasp them, deliberately suppressed. By the same technology that had driven his truck and modified his perception, he wanted to report it. To tell authorities about autonomous trucks and modified manifests and underground facilities. But every time he tried to form the intention, the thought dissolved, replaced by certainty that nothing had happened, that he'd slept peacefully in Flagstaff, that his truck was normal and his cargo was normal and his night was uneventful. A month later, it happened again. The truck started itself at 2:47 a.m. in a rest area outside Albuquerque, drove him to another meeting point, another group of figures, another delivery to another facility, another memory wipe, another falsified logbook. This became Liam's new reality. Once a month, sometimes twice, his truck would activate its secondary systems, would drive itself to meeting points, would take him to facilities that didn't exist on maps, would deliver cargo he couldn't identify to locations he couldn't remember, and would return him to normal routes with altered logs and suppressed memories. Other truckers started reporting similar experiences, trucks driving themselves, deliveries they couldn't remember, time gaps in their logs, coordinates they couldn't recall, all working for the same hidden network, all selected for reasons they didn't understand, all modified to serve purposes beyond normal commerce. Some tried to resist, tried to disable their truck systems, tried to report what was happening. Those trucks were retired from service. Those drivers found other work, or disappeared. No one questioned it. No one investigated. Because the technology that modified the trucks also modified perception, made investigations impossible, made resistance futile. Liam Foster still drives, still hauls freight across America, but once or twice a month his truck drives itself, takes him to places that don't exist, makes him deliver cargo he can't identify, and wipes his memory afterward, leaving only a vague unease, a sense that something is using him, using all of them, using the trucking infrastructure for purposes that have nothing to do with commerce and everything to do with the invisible exchange between humans and visitors who've been here much longer than anyone admits. The truck that drove itself was never Liam's truck. It belonged to them, to the network, to the system that runs beneath the official systems. And Liam Foster, like hundreds of other drivers, is just an operator, a biological component in a machine that's much larger and older and stranger than anyone realizes. He drives during the day, makes normal deliveries, earns his paycheck, lives his life. But at night sometimes his truck starts itself, and Liam goes wherever it takes him, because he doesn't have a choice, because resistance was designed out of the system, because the truck that drove itself was always driving him, and always will, until he's no longer useful, until the technology advances beyond needing human operators, until the exchange is complete and the visitors don't need truckers anymore. Then Liam Foster will be retired, or disappeared, or repurposed. Just like all the others who discovered too late that their trucks were never really theirs.